What's up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back again to the IHOLDSHIFT channel. Why do I even say these things? I don't know. We're digging into power rankings, though. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happened at Anaheim and how that all matches up. If this is your first time seeing a post-event power rankings from me, I do things very mathematical. I take the overall set records that teams have, including their map win-loss ratio. I rank them from 1 to 16, just based on that alone. And then I go and I take the results from CWL Anaheim and I rate the teams from 1 to 16, again based off placings. And for those that are labeled between the 13th and 16th spot, the 9th and 12th, and then the tie for 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th, I just rate them by map win-loss ratios to kind of make sure they are rated from 1 to 16. I average those two values together, and then I get a pretty good listing as far as what the overall power ranking should look like. I have made a couple of moves because there's a certain team that hasn't won a map in God knows how long that needs to be at the very bottom. And there's a couple other moves that I've made just kind of based on how teams performed versus what their potential are and things of that nature. So let's go ahead and dig things in. As you anticipate, number 6 team, Team Envy. How do you not win a map? How do you go 0-12 at an event? After not winning Search and Destroy since London, was the last time we saw them win a Search and Destroy. How do you not win a map against the likes of Luminosity, Reciprocity as a whole? I get the Gen G and 100 Thieves thing. That's passable. Not a lot of teams beat 100 Thieves or Gen G in maps. However, Luminosity did not have a great event, as they shouldn't have. And that's a team you need to beat in pools. At least get a map off of. Reciprocity also did not have a great event. You need to be able to take a map from these guys. They would go 0-12. And of course, if you haven't watched my most recent Rostermania update video, make sure you go do it. But we're anticipating a lot of changes coming in. So let's just skip that ahead and go up to number 15, which is technically a one-move bump for UYU. Again, they also did not win a set, but at least they were able to find themselves 6 maps, which is, again, a lot more than we can say for Team Envy. Heartbreaking losses to both Elevate and E-United, which really kind of kept them down in the pools as they were putting in the losers bracket very quickly. They would go up against a Luminosity team that honestly I thought they were going to win against, but they weren't able to close things out. So UYU, they would be sitting here in the 15th spot. Again, a very good set with Luminosity. Both hard points were over 220 for them, and then a 5-6 loss in Gridlock and a 3-2 win in Gridlock Control. So again, this is a squad that went 1-6 in hard point. That definitely has to change. They only averaged 201 points per hard point. Definitely not good. Going to the 14th spot, Midnight Esports, again, another team that we're anticipating having a lot of changes coming through. This is a team that was able to find a win versus Splice at 3-1. The 3-2 loss to FaZe really hurts, although honestly, it was a set that really was not all that close. An 88-250 loss on the hard point, as well as a 203-250 loss. This is a squad that went 2-5 in the hard point. Are you starting to catch a little bit of a trend with their teams down low? Not quite able to do things in the respawn, although this was a squad that did go 2-2 in the control, so at least there's that. But for Midnight, not what you wanted to see. Obviously losing to a squad in denial that you thought they would be able to beat. At least you think that they should be able to beat, but not was the case as far as how things go. So Midnight will stay at the 14th spot. In the 13th spot, a one-move slip from Denial, who was not able to win or do anything really during pools. They did start up 2-0 on Optic before they got reverse swept. They would find nothing against Heretics, nothing against Evil Geniuses. They would find a 3-0 versus Midnight in the losers bracket before they got absolutely destroyed by E-United in the second round of the losers bracket. That win versus Midnight was pretty good, to be completely honest with you guys. They were also 2-4 in the hard point, but the big caveat to this squad was their control. Only 1-4 there, where they were only able to find a win versus Midnight. Even in that 2-3 versus Optic, they really did not perform all that well in the control, and that's kind of been the storyline for this team that also went 1-3 at London in the control, and were only able to win control twice during their weeks in their divisional play. So Denial, again, you got to make a swap. You got to find a way to be better, and obviously we're anticipating that's going to be the case. In the 12th spot, a little bit of a surprise, but not really. Again, my last power rankings video, I said Luminosity would likely not win a game in the pools, and then they would win at least one game in the losers bracket. That was almost 100% correct. Completely stomped by 100 Thieves, completely stomped by Gen G, and then they were able to take a 3-0 versus Envy. before they would also find a 5-game win, or pardon me, a map 5 win versus UYU. They would then get absolutely destroyed by FaZe. This was a team that was just 1-4 in control, but pretty decent everywhere else. In fact, outside of a couple of particularly bad losses to FaZe Clan, they were looking pretty decent in Hardpoint all the way up until they played FaZe Clan, in which it was very obvious that they were not at the same level. FaZe Clan beat them at 55-250 and 54-250. I'm actually double checking to make sure that that's correct, because that's embarrassing. 2 sub-60 losses for Luminosity. But again, not the roster we anticipate to finish off the season with. They do end up getting up to the 12th spot, so top 12 finish is where I had them. Top 12 finish is where they end up going. Evil Geniuses, a bit of a disappointment in the 11th spot, as they were not able to get out of losers bracket round 1 with a game 5 loss to Splice. They were able to find a 3-0 win versus Denial, but everything else just looked like it was just not turning up in favor of Evil Geniuses. They went 2-5 in Hardpoint, which is a steep decline considering that they were 4-4 at London, and they had a pretty good divisional as well in the Hardpoint. Their biggest weakness has been in control. That would continue to be the case. Apparently, they put more practice into Seaside because they won both of those. Nobody played them on Arsenal because they looked good at Arsenal during the divisionals, and they weren't ready for frequency at all. So again, Evil Geniuses getting some work done, but not enough. They actually looked pretty decent in the Search and Destroy as well. 3-2 there, but one of their losses was a 5-6 loss, and the other loss was a 4-6 loss. So Evil Geniuses getting better at Search. You love to see it. Digressed in Hardpoint, you don't love to see that, and then still kind of just working their way through control. Very much so merited, I think, at the 11th spot. Unfortunate they weren't able to perform a little bit higher than we thought, but only a top 16 finish for EG. Elevate in the 10th spot, right where we had them before. They again found map 5 wins, not only versus UIU, but also versus E United. That was before they lost to Reciprocity. And then just after that, they would be in the winner's bracket where they would lose to 100 Thieves and then not quite be able to get the job done versus Splice. And what was a very competitive set. They were able to take one of the hard points and the control, but were not quite able to finish off either of the Search and Destroys. 2-4-6 losses there to Splice. And again, we're anticipating Elevate making some moves, but this is a team that, again, is contending for a potential top 4 spot in Division B. They need to make sure they find these changes quickly, and they find them to be an improvement as well, so they can try to lock in a safe spot in the Miami playoffs, which is what we're looking forward to for a lot of these teams. In the 9th spot, staying where they were previously, I've got Splice up here. And again, Splice, an atrocious pools, only winning 2 games, would then find themselves 2 map 5 wins versus Evil Geniuses and then versus Elevate. And then they would get completely smoked out by FaZe Clan, a 171 hardpoint, a 1-6 loss on the Search, and an 0-3 in the Control. This is a team that went 2-8 in hardpoint and 1-5 in Control. Their bread and butter was the Search and Destroy, where they were 5-3, averaged 5 points per game. Thank goodness as well, because yikes, you cannot go down that hard in Respawn versus the teams that they played up against. The loss versus Midnight is where things were like, damn. And the 0-3 versus Enigma 6, again, this is a squad that, remember, 3-0'd Enigma 6 in a divisional, and I said, if Splice doesn't earn streaks, Enigma 6 has a potential to take those 3 maps against Splice. Well, they were able to do that here, and it looked pretty solid for them. It was a close set, though, a very combative set. 232-250, 4-6 on the Search, 2-3 on the Control. Splice will round out our bottom 8. Going to our top 8. I had Reciprocity previously in the 5th spot, merited after our top 12 finish, I think, that dropped them to 8th. Honestly, all of their games were relatively competitive throughout. The 0-3 versus E United was actually a pretty close set. It was a 230-250 on this Respawn. That was a hard point of frequency, a round 11 on Gridlock, and then it was a 3-0 technically on the Control. But beyond that, everything else looked pretty good. Even the set versus the Heretics was a relatively consistent and competitive game. So this Reciprocity team is on the cusp, I think, of potentially holding what would be, what we had in previously, a top 6 potential spot, but not quite being able to get things done in the losers bracket, which is where they started, unfortunately, due to the map total differential between them, E United, and Elevate. They weren't able to give themselves at least a 1-round bye, and they weren't able to get past the Heretics, who were too strong, and who are also in our 7th spot overall. The Heretics, again, I think, honestly, I'm baffled by the fact that they're making a roster change. If you don't know what I mean, again, please go check out my update video. But This is a team that looked very solid in pools. A 3-1 versus Evil Geniuses, a 3-0 versus Denial, and then the 0-3 versus Optic, yes, but it was a pretty competitive set for the most part. The Search and Destroy went to round 10, and then we also had Optic taking a 170 to 250 win in the hard point on Frequency, which is where Optic dominated pretty much throughout the entire event. Beyond that, though, the map 5 loss versus Enigma 6, a very good game in the winners bracket. Outside of the Search and Destroys, where Heretics for some reason were just completely lost in Search, which was not what we saw from them at all in the pools. And then they weren't quite able to get the job done versus E United later. This is a squad that went even 5-5 in Hardpoint. They were 4-2 in the Control, 3-5 in the Search and Destroy. So again, a little bit of synergistic things, I guess you can kind of tell just by those stats, because they've been consistent pretty much throughout. You go through every single major event they've been at so far, Fort Worth, London, and Anaheim, and their stat lines, their win-losses between each of those modes are relatively consistent. So not really shining anywhere, but not really being a letdown anywhere either. So Heretics making a move for Sucre. We'll see what happens with that squad. In the 6th spot, might seem like too big of a jump for some of you, but I've been telling you about this Enigma 6 team. They're one of the only teams that were able to take our top 4 teams to Game 5 or beat them. I knew this team had it in them, and they finally showed up and found a 9-1 pools, beating FaZe Clan 3-0. They would, again, like we mentioned with Heretics, find the map 5 win. They would not quite be able to get the job done versus Gen G, but goodness did they give themselves a chance to. And then the second time they'd play FaZe, it would not be a repeat of the first time, but it was still competitive. It's a shame that this Enigma 6 team, I think, is getting broken up, but with the potential moves that we're seeing from them, I think they could still have this same top 8 potential in them. It just comes down to how much synergy they're able to find in such a short amount of time. But big looks from Enigma 6. They find themselves a very convincing top 6 finish. Very, very happy for them. In the 5th spot, E United, a little bit of a drop there for these guys. Again, if there was a tournament that E United were going to win with this roster, for me personally, it was this one. The fact that they weren't even quite able to get into the top 4 really kind of feels bad, I think. As you take a look at their pools, it was a 3-0 versus Reciprocity, a good start, but they weren't quite able to get the job done versus Elevate, and they went all the way to map 5 versus UYU. And then the 1-3 loss to Gen G before they would make a little bit of a loser's bracket run before they would come up against Optic. And honestly, they didn't look like they were ready to play Optic that day. A 1-6 on the Search and Destroy and a 1-3 in the Control. This team did go 9-3 in Hardpoint. That's big for a team that was so previously good at Search. The other side of that coin is they only went 4-5 in Search. You do with that information what you will. Going up a little bit further into FaZe Clan. We had them at 4th place. I projected them 4th place. They finished 4th place. Just about what you would anticipate to do. 11-2 in Hardpoint. This FaZe Clan team on the respawn has been so good. Just need to clean up the Search and Destroy. They were 4-7 there and 4-4 in the Control. They were able to find very good sets. Again, like you mentioned, after the 0-3 loss to Enigma 6, they went map 5 with Optic, but they wouldn't be able to close things out. They would not be able to do it the second time either, that they would beat later in the winners bracket after going through a very good losers bracket run where they beat Luminosity, Splice, and Enigma 6. Again. So in the 3rd spot, I do have Optic down here. And again, before you green wall lovers come after me, you got to keep in mind that this team, comparatively to our team in 2nd, does not have a very good head-to-head record with them, which is why I have them below the team in 2nd place and, of course, the one in 1st. They were able to find themselves a perfect pool, able to find themselves a 3-0, and then, of course, that map 5 win versus FaZe that we just mentioned, but losing to 100 Thieves, it was really not all that close at all, honestly, between them and 100 Thieves. They were able to smack around E United, but then that map 5 loss again to Gen G in what was a very competitive set. You just kind of wish you would have seen them be able to work that one out, but not quite able to get things done. We're Optic, so they'll be sitting in 3rd behind Gen G. Now, again, a lot of you guys are going to be mad about this because Gen G were the kind of dark horses of this tournament. The head-to-head with Optic, Gen G's 3-1, they're 11-5 in maps. It's hard to rate them below. Actually, the math technically had Gen G also above Optic based on where I had them. So the math checks out, the head-to-head checks out, and outside of 100 Thieves, Gen G was better than every team they played this weekend. Yes, they had a map 5 win versus Enigma 6, but again, Enigma 6 was a good team this week, and they are a good team, period. Also, the map 5 win versus Optic, you kind of got to give this to Gen G just sitting in the 2nd place. Just be appeased by that for now. We'll see if anything ends up swapping around any of those teams. I don't anticipate roster moves for either of those two squads, though, so we'll see what happens in the cross-divisional. And then in 1st place, the 100 Thieves. Can't deny it. Only losing 4 maps, period. End of story. that's what I got for you guys. Power rankings for you. I will again be doing another one of these after the Rostermania period is over. Anticipate that by Saturday or Sunday, maybe Friday or Saturday. We'll see how my schedule pans out. A lot of things to go over as far as every single roster that making changes, which there are a lot of them. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you check out my Rostermania update video and keep an eye out for our finalized Rostermania video going over every single roster as soon as Thursday concludes, which is when the deadline will be occurring. Again, thanks so much for anyone who's out there in the open stream throughout CWL Anaheim and gave some support in the chat to me. I really do appreciate that. You guys are incredible. It's been a lot of fun, really, to hang around and be a part of this scene. I don't know if I'll be at Miami yet. I'm crossing my fingers that we will get a chance, and we're gonna just kind of be able to reprove ourselves as being, you know, a good addition to the community as a whole. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'll catch you guys for the Rostermania conclusion tomorrow. Until then, though, hope you all keep pulling it down. Later. Bye-bye.